I'm Jason Sipe, and this is the Indiana Libertarian Update for the week of January 16th, 2017. We have a great interview with Evan McMahon. He's been leading efforts to keep government regulation out of the vaping industry for the last few years. He's also known for his work as a political consultant. We'll catch up with Evan in both accounts in just a few moments. But first, let's check in on Libertarian events, news, and events from around the state of Indiana. If you look up on top of me here, you'll see a copy of a resolution. This resolution was just passed by the Indiana Department of the Indiana Department of the American Legion on behalf of Jeff Staker and all the people working so hard for freedom at Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis. They have scored a significant victory. As a result of their guts and determination, the Indiana Department of the American Legion passed this resolution Sunday, calling on Indiana lawmakers to, quote, amend state legislation to remove restrictions from marijuana and reclassify it as a drug with potential medical value. Again, congratulations to all the folks over at Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis, including last week's update guest, Jeff Staker. Great news from them. Now, turning to Libertarian circles, let's be sure to congratulate Michael Dowden from Brownsburg for his recent appointments. To the Brownsburg Improvement Committee and the Economic Development Commission. His efforts to bring a libertarian perspective to one of Indianapolis's fastest growing suburbs have definitely made a real impact out in Hendricks County. But wait, there's more. It doesn't stop there. Paul Morrell of Rush County was just appointed to a 3-year term on the Rush County Sheriff's Department Merit Board. Libertarians are currently serving in appointed positions on the Planning Commission and Fire Board in Rush County, as well as that appointment to the Sheriff's Merit Board for Paul. 2019 may seem like a long time away, but it's not too early for Tommy Brown, the third of Salem, Indiana, to announce his intentions to run for Salem City Council in 2019. Be sure to check out Tommy Brown III, Libertarian, on Facebook to learn more about Tommy and how you can support him in the long haul to City Hall. Libertarian Party of Marion County is looking forward to their officer elections for 2017. That happens on this evening. That's right, Monday, January 16th at the Antelope Club in Indianapolis. We get together at 7 p.m. We usually get together around 6:30 for dinner and some drinks, but things kick off officially around 7 p.m. I encourage anyone who is a Libertarian from Marion County, if you have any interest in leadership positions, please join us. We're looking forward to seeing you, and the party could definitely use your efforts in Marion County. Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis, speaking of Jeff Staker and company, are asking any interested individuals, you don't have to be a veteran, any interested individuals to join them at the State House for Indiana Veterans Legislative Day at the State House. That's on January 23rd. The Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis, will have a display table along with veterans organizations throughout the state to meet with our legislators to discuss issues that are forthcoming and important to Hoosier veterans in the 2017 session. Now, folks, this could very well be a watershed day in Indiana history. I'm counting no less than 3 veterans organizations that are planning to be there in support of medical cannabis for veterans and all Hoosiers. So very interesting things could come to pass on January 23rd down at the State House. On January 30th, the Libertarian Party of Johnson County will be hosting a meeting at Triple Play Barbecue located at 186 West Jefferson Street in Franklin. It's always a lot funner to have a business meeting when you got good food. That will run from 6 to 8 p.m. again at Triple Play Barbecue located at 186 West Jefferson Street in Franklin. Town hall meeting will be held at the Indiana State House by Senator Talion and members of Higher Fellowship on Thursday, February 9th. That is in promotion of medical cannabis legalization as well. That event is scheduled to begin at 12 p.m. With the amount of interest and activity going on around cannabis legalization, it looks like there might actually be some things to come past, and I think it is absolutely imperative that Libertarians own this issue, whether in an elected capacity or supporting those who have legend out there. The LPIN State Central Committee will meet on Saturday, February 18th. That's at 10 a.m. at the Antelope Club. Not sure what's on the agenda for this meeting, but all LPIN meetings are open to the public. Wednesday services at the First Church of Cannabis, as always. Those kick off at 7 p.m. With our good friend Bill Levin. They're hoping to practice their religion as they see fit, but the state won't let them. Be sure to support the First Church of Cannabis at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, and of course on Fridays they have their Comedy Grinder. If you're a fan of comedy, this is quickly becoming a must-see show every Friday at the First Cannabis there on the south side of Indianapolis, 3400 South Rural. It's a few months away yet, but it's not too early to pencil in May the 5th through the 7th for the 2017 LPIN State Convention. We expect a contested race for state chair, and many of the decisions made at this convention will determine the direction of libertarian politics in Indiana for the next several years. The event is scheduled for the Tropicana Executive Conference Center there on the banks of the Ohio in Evansville, and we promised to get Rodney Banker in here on the update to discuss the details as soon as they are forthcoming. He was supposed to be in last week. He was supposed to be in this week. Seems like there's still some things there, and he wants to get those nailed down before he comes in. Hopefully we'll be hearing for Rodney Banker and our higher-ups at the Libertarian Party of Indiana with details on that soon. All right, any links from today's episode are available on the Indiana Libertarian Update Facebook page. Now, as promised, we're joined by Evan McMahon of Hoosier Vapors. The man that's in the virtual meeting space with me today is Evan McMahon. If you've been around Indiana libertarian politics at any point over the last 5 years or so, you have probably met Evan and definitely taken part in some of the activities that he's been a part of. And that's a certainty, again, if you've been around libertarian politics at any point over the last few years. For the last 2 years or so, we haven't necessarily seen a lot of Evan in specifically libertarian circles. He's been involved in another special interest project and has been making some waves there. So where the heck has Evan McMahon been for the last couple of years? What's going on with Evan McMahon? Today we're going to catch up with Evan. So Evan, what is going on with you? First of all, let me back that up first. Who is Evan McMahon?
Boy, that's a question right there. Who is Evan McMahon? Chris Spangle, if he's watching this, he'll remember that we actually shot a video back in 2010 saying, who is Evan McMahon? And it was quite comical. I don't know if that exists anywhere online, but it was a lot of fun. So, who am I? I am somebody that people go to with political campaign questions, strategy. I'm the guy in the party that helps candidates. I'm not the academic. I'm not the philosophy of the party guy. I'm the guy who takes your philosophy and your policy and turns it into something that's marketable for the general voter. So that's my skill set, and I've been doing that almost my entire life. I worked on my first campaign when I was 6 years old. I was a volunteer. My aunt took me, and we passed out literature for a candidate that she was friends with, and I just stayed in politics and kept doing it and kept doing it. And eventually somebody offered me money to work on a campaign, and I was like, well, yeah, of course. I was mostly Republican, and you know, the classic definition of a libertarian or of a Republican, you do you, I'll do me, let's leave each other the hell alone, small government. And when I was about 19 or 20, I started waking up to the idea of libertarianism, the individual right to life, liberty, and property, and that government serves little to no purpose other than to control people. And it was in 2010, significantly older than 18 or 19, that I finally made the switch, and had just been so disgusted by the two-party system and Republicans who claim to be for liberty and individual rights, who were for liberty and individual rights if you were like them. If you're not like them, then your rights don't apply. I had known Mark Rutherford, who at the time was the vice chair of the National Party, and he convinced me to put my skill set to work for free for libertarian candidates. And over the years, Mark has drugged me into other libertarian pursuits like Atlas Liberty, PAC, which we did candidate training and support. And then eventually I became the executive director of the Libertarian National Campaign Committee, the official campaign candidate wing of the party. So I've worked on a lot of campaigns here in Indiana. I've supported candidates up and down the ticket across the country. camped out in Colorado for about a month and a half, helping their state with the recall election. Spent 2 months in Illinois, helping them beat off or fend off a ballot challenge to their candidates. So that's what I do, and what I've been doing for the last 2 years is quietly advising a select number of candidates who somehow got my phone number and called me late at night and asked for help. But the most important thing on my agenda the last 2 years has been the vaping controversy in Indiana. Vaping is using one of these devices. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker most of my life, coming from a good Irish family. And a few years ago, I wanted to cut back on smoking, and I tried a vaporizer. And after 4 days, I realized I hadn't had a cigarette. And since then, my health has improved dramatically. I feel better, I sleep better, I breathe better. Having a lung scan, my doctor says right now I'm on the pathway to having lungs that look like a non-smoker, someone who's never smoked in their life. And this great disruptive technology that was created by consumers is being attacked on both the federal and state level because it's taking revenue away. It's taking control away. The FDA won't allow businesses to talk about the studies and science behind this being a safer, healthier alternative to smoking here in the U.S. So they say that the reason why they won't allow that is because it creates confusion that you might think they're FDA-approved products if you talk about the truth about these things. Yeah, the FDA products that don't work, that aren't successful.
Yeah, because they've done such a good job of protecting us to this point.
Yeah, the crazy thing is they'll say the FDA says that the FDA and CDC will put out statements that nicotine may cause cancer, which actually the CDC's own studies say that nicotine doesn't cause cancer. But they say it causes cancer when they're talking about this. The exact same nicotine that's used in this is used in the patch and in the lozenges, but apparently those don't cause cancer because they're FDA approved. So, that's the kind of dumb battles that we've been fighting. But here in Indiana, we had a regulatory law that went into effect this past July that limited who can manufacture and sell products in the state of Indiana. And it basically created a system where anybody in the world who wanted to sell their products in Indiana had to have a permit from the state of Indiana, to guarantee the safety of the manufacturing process.
And the age of technology, that makes such perfect sense, too, because people will only order from approved sites and that type of thing.
Yeah. So they created this system, and they said you had to have a contract with a security company, but they set the requirements for who qualified at a security company so high that only one company in the entire world qualified. Just so happened to be just one, happened to be a company in Indiana that was in the district of one of the authors of the bill. So
there seems to be some scrambling going on at the State House right now. I know that you can't go into a lot of detail, but where are we today with the vaping issue? What's going on at this point, and what can you bring us up to speed at for the 2017 session?
So, it took 2 years, but we got reporters involved in this who finally decided to look deep and see some of the issues that were inherent in the passing and enforcement and enactment of this law. There was an FBI investigation into it, and all of that kind of gave the legislature a moment to look back and go, hey, wait a minute, these businesses have actually seriously been harmed. This wasn't hyperbole. This wasn't me running around like Chicken Little saying the sky is falling when I said businesses are going to close. It actually happened. Yeah. And they have, in large numbers. So the legislature, Senator Randall Head, authored a bill to undo this. It still puts in some requirements to provide for the state's ability to verify the safety and security of the products because it is a consumable. But it removes this what we call monopoly in vaping. So it's going to maintain a safe and secure market, but also a free market in Indiana. It was such a high priority that the Senate Republican leaders had their priorities press conference earlier this week. And at that press conference, President Pro Tem, the leader of the Senate, Senator David Long, mentioned that this bill was one of their top priorities, and as such, they have given it the distinction of Senate Bill 1, which means it is the utmost priority of the Senate. So they're taking it very, very seriously, and it's a good day for vapors and small business owners in the state. I think we're going to get some serious traction, and I think that by the end of this session, we'll see a safe and free market in Indiana again.
Well,
so that's what I've been working on for the past 2 years.
Fantastic, Evan. I think when it comes to the topic of vaping, it's something that a lot of folks hold near and dear, because I think most everybody, myself included, knows somebody whose life has been changed as a result of that technology. And when you used the term earlier, disruptive technology, it certainly has disrupted a lot of money-making schemes, it seems, for the big tobacco, the anti-big tobacco lobby. I know we've talked about this a couple times, and it is a very complicated landscape, and we appreciate your efforts there. Now, you mentioned that. Go ahead.
One of the things that I like to point out to people is there's 10 million Americans that still smoke, and there was about a million smokers in Indiana alone. Out of 6 million, 1/6 of Hoosiers smoke. 28% of people on Medicaid and Medicare in Indiana, 60% of people on Medicaid and Medicare in Indiana smoke. So we look at the numbers of people in the last 15 years that stopped smoking from the traditional cessation methods and the stop smoking, anti-smoking organizations, their marketing campaigns. We look at those and we see no dramatic decrease in the number of smokers. We do see a dramatic decrease in new smokers. So young people aren't picking up the habit, which is great. But you don't see the level of smokers quitting. You see the level of smokers dying, but not people in droves giving up smoking.
Yeah.
Then in 2010, when this product, this technology became more readily available across the country, the first vape shop in Indiana opened in 2008. No, I'm sorry, it was 2010. The first vape shop opened in 2010, and it just, it exploded. People were coming in like crazy, and they just couldn't keep product in stock. You look at the rate of smoking that dropped, and it's been cut in half.
Wow.
So, and that's just in 5 years, and it's completely due to vaping. But when that happens, you have a state that was getting $200+ million a year in money from the tobacco companies as part of the master settlement agreement from the late 90s when we all sued the tobacco companies.
Yeah.
That number is fluctuating right around $100 million today. So it's a $100 million loss each year.
Well, and I think that kind of illustrates that there's so many things when it comes to vaping, when it comes to legalization of cannabis. What we're seeing, the greatest lobbies against this type of freedom are the people who are making money off the status quo, including the anti-tobacco movement. As much as they purport to want to stop smoking and help and improve people's health, when you put a choke on their stream of income, that seems to be a little different attitude.
And if you look at the UK 2 years ago was very anti-vaping. They actually passed legislation to ban the sales of e-liquid within the UK. Mm-hmm. They were banning the use in public. They were going hardcore, and it was like, oh my God, let's hope that doesn't come here to the US. And then 5 of the largest government-run health organizations in the UK did a study to determine the ill effects of vaping. They wanted to prove that vaping was bad for you. And the opposite happened. And so you had these five largest health organizations, Public Health UK, the Royal College of Physicians, all said, whoa, we're taking the worst approach here. This is 95% safer than smoking. It poses no direct effect on bystanders, so there's no secondhand vaping or passive vaping, and it works. It works better than anything we've ever tried to get rid of the death and disease caused by smoking. So they reversed course to the point where in the EU, there was what's called the TPD, the Tobacco Products Directive, okay, which is actually going to kill vaping in Europe. The technology, the devices are limited in size and power, the bottle size. This is a 30 ml bottle of e-liquid. Here, I'll give you a better example. This is a commercial version of a 30 ml bottle of an e-liquid. In the EU, you can only sell it in 10 milliliters. And they limit the amount of nicotine that you can put in there, which hurts people who are trying to transition from smoking. Mm-hmm. So when Brexit happened in the UK, there was a top 10 list of reasons why the EU sucks and why Britain should get out. And that was actually number 5 on the list, was because of the Tobacco Products Directive. So
it seems that this has been an opportunity, that this represents an opportunity for us libertarians to possibly get behind a cause, and I know many of us, of course, are already active in this, like yourself. Talk about this in terms of an opportunity for any politician. Where should a politician be, and how should they be looking at the vaping issue?
So, first, as how the Libertarian Party can kind of take advantage of a situation like this, a lot of these small business owners were not very political. A lot of them voted, but they weren't entrenched in ideology. But then you have the government knock on your door and say, we're killing your American dream.
Yeah.
We're going to regulate you out of existence. And you're screaming and yelling, going, but wait, this is wrong. This is not accurate. And it's like, well, we don't care because these big, powerful people over here pay more than you do. They're spending more. I'm going to listen to their lobbyists. I'm going to listen to their attorneys. You don't matter. And I know of at least 40 business owners who then asked me for Gary Johnson signs, who were not libertarians. I know some of these small business owners who are now attending meetings at their local Libertarian Party, and a lot of that has to do with the Rodney at the LPIN posting things about our fight on the state's main webpage. Several candidates, Pepper, Russell, Rex came and did a live broadcast with me talking about government overreach as he was running for governor. All of these candidates spoke out about vaping. They're not necessarily endorsing vaping, but they're saying this is what happens when you have one party that's in absolute power. Yep. This is what happens. This is what we talk about with government overreach. We're not exaggerating when we say they came for your neighbor, tomorrow they'll come for you. People think that's a joke and it couldn't happen, but here's the vaping community looking and going, holy shit, they just did.
Well, I think any person can look around, and this might not have really been the case 15, 20 years ago. We're all breaking the law. We're collecting every day rainwater. We're drinking unpasteurized milk. I am one of the most offensive, unlicensed plumbers that you will ever come across. I am not bonded. I am not licensed. I am not insured. And I am a criminal for this. So all of us are criminals these days, and I think this has been a case where where a lot of people, and again, you start considering the availability of online ordering and things like that. A lot of folks are just going to find another market if the Indiana market isn't going to take care of what they need.
Well, we just completed a survey of over 6,000 vaping consumers in Indiana, and one of the things that we realized was that the vast majority, prior to this law going into effect, purchase their products at specialty vape stores. A lot of people started, their first devices came from tobacco stores or gas stations, and they would say that the staff there were not knowledgeable about the safety or use of that product.
Right.
But then when they went to a specialty vape store, they found people who were committed and very knowledgeable about both the product and the safety and how to use it. That has now, because of this law, because your options for products are so limited at stores, the vast majority of people are now going online and finding retailers that don't care about complying with the law because, screw it. I'm in Arizona. What do I care? That are then shipping product into the state. And that ultimately is creating even more damage to the local small business. And so, that they see this and they feel it, and they feel it every day. They feel it when they have to lay off an employee. When, I know of many business owners who are trying to expand into their second or third store that then had to stop. So they were profitable. Their consumers wanted the products they had. They were safe. And here comes a ridiculous law that says, sorry, you can't go any further. And, with that, you have this eye-opening movement of these small business owners who are now passionate and very engaged in politics. And they're asking, and it's changing the way they think about something. So they're going to ask their local candidates specifically about vaping. But they're going to ask them questions about, like, even though you're a state legislator, I'm going to ask you about the FDA and how the FDA regulates, because I want your take on what you see government's role in our lives. And they've started getting that core ideology of, am I hurting somebody else? Am I violating somebody else's right to life, liberty, or property? And if not, what the hell is it your business? Mm-hmm. Why are you interfering in these, consensual agreements between adults? Why are you interfering in this business? And then they see, Uber and Lyft and Airbnb and, Kickstarter crowdfunding. These are all disruptive technologies that kick government out of the deal, that block them from it, and, goes direct to the consumer. And so they see this and they're really waking up to it. And when that business owner wakes up to it, you end up having their customers waking up to it. So, like, behind me, there's a sign on one of the sides, I vape, I vote. Every store in the state has a stack of these. And around election time, a little bit before, they're being passed out. And there's a lot of stores have tablets set up. Are you registered to vote? Do you know who your local candidates are? Here's some information about candidates and what they believe. What are you asking these people? And so they're getting very politically involved, and they're getting their consumers involved too, because it's personal. It's not academic for them. The government's trying to take away something that works. It's the way I describe it is, imagine if tomorrow there was a law passed in Indiana that said there has to be a licensed psychoanalyst and drug counselor at every AA meeting. And if not, you're committing a felony by attending it.
Be a lot of felons out there, I suspect.
Yeah. So, it's just as deeply personal for us as it is for somebody in recovery. And capitalizing on that movement is something that the party did fairly well this past year. There could have been more, but they did a really good job at doing that, making sure that there were candidates who were aware of the issue, were coordinating with me or contacting with me. Hey, I'm in this area. Is there a shop that I can go to talk to people? But we can do more than that. And it doesn't even have to be about vaping. We have to find, one of the, when I do my candidate or community county party development program that we did a few years ago, I tell the county officers, find a local issue. Find something that's important to people, but also has a libertarian idea. and take that issue on. You don't have to be in office. You don't have to sit on the city council, but you can take an active role in it, in participating, showing up at events, helping organize rallies, being there. Shane Zollner, who was running for state senate in I think it was Senate District 32, he is a vapor, but he attended every event that we had. He came to every single one of them. He helped get pizza for a couple of the events, just out of his own personal, because he's a vapor. He, talked to people, and he explained his positions on things. And so in turn, vapors went to his libertarian events. When he had a town hall meeting,
right.
Vapors showed up. They had yard signs out for him. They wore his polo. So you have to find that niche, that group. And even if you're not convincing them today to become a libertarian, you're telling them, I give a shit, or excuse me, I care about your issue.
It's Facebook, man. We can do that.
I care about your issue. I care about this thing. We might not agree on everything, but let's work to fix this issue.
Thinking in terms of the state of Indiana, and I suspect that vaping would be on this list for you, can you pare it down to maybe 3 issues that you think the Libertarian Party is best qualified to capitalize on in the next year or two?
I think the issues that are going to be facing Indiana the most right now, the largest swath of voters. I actually wouldn't put vaping on that list. I think it's something that the party should be paying attention to and actively be part of, but I don't think it would make my top 3 list for the next 2 years. The big thing that I would look at is infrastructure. People really, really are concerned about infrastructure in Indiana. We just had a crane hit 465 and shut the bridge down, the overpass down for a week. And that shouldn't actually happen. But that overpass hasn't been repaired since the last time it was hit, by a crane, no doubt. But that's an important issue. Yeah, that's an important issue that a lot of people really care about, and they care about how we're going to fund it. So if I was the chair of the party right now, I would be getting together with a lot of the smartest policy people, and I would say, we got to do the roads. My roads, they're taking away my roads. We have to approach infrastructure and say, it's here right now. It's the state's responsibility to maintain it. What plan can we offer for maintaining infrastructure that provides the most cost savings to the individual taxpayer? What can we do? Does that include toll roads? Mm-hmm. Does that include privatizing or getting local businesses to adopt roads in their community to maintain them? But we need a policy. We need something. Because what they're putting up right now
budgetary
is
review. Yeah.
Right. They're putting up a tax. We're going to increase taxes on cigarettes, which hurts the poorest people in Indiana. And we're going to add a fuel
and people aren't smoking anymore.
600 to 700,000 people in Indiana smoke, but they also tend to be from the lowest income. And anytime
you give it 5 years, people will be growing weed in their backyard, and they'll be growing tobacco and hydroponic systems in their basement.
Probably, no doubt. That's probably what's going to end up happening.
Hey man, you looking for some tobacco?
That's one of the issues that I think that we should take on is infrastructure and funding of infrastructure maintenance. That's going to be a big one. The other thing is the carrier deal helped us immensely because we've been talking about robbing Peter to pay Paul for decades. That the deals that we make to say, okay, like I don't agree with property taxes. I think when you own your property and you buy your property, that's your property. How can the government send me a bill every year because I own my property? And if I don't pay it, they take my property away. That violates my right to property. But we have property tax. When businesses are given an abatement to hire a certain number of employees, which statistically in Indiana over a 12-year period, no company has ever achieved even close to the amount of employees they've said they would hire, full-time employees. It's never happened in 12 years. But when you do that, when you abate those property taxes, when you abate income taxes, and when you give deals to this company, you are robbing the other small businesses or even big businesses in that area, in the state, to pay for their competition. You know, we have TIF districts where grants are given to start up small businesses. So if, you know, my neighborhood's a TIF district, there's a coffee shop on the corner. The city will give a grant to help open a new coffee shop to somebody who wants to open one on the opposite corner. Well, that new government-funded coffee shop doesn't have any risk, or their risk is much smaller. So they can get into a bidding war with the established coffee shop. So it's using taxpayer money to pick winners and losers in the market, and that shouldn't happen. And with the carrier deal, this company is still getting its abatements, and they didn't meet the agreement, the original agreement, and we were like, oh, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. Sorry, taxpayers. And then the president-elect comes in and says, hey, no, you should stay. You should stay. But it's still not everybody. It's only a portion of the jobs that they said they would keep.
And I wonder when it's all said and done, what portion it's actually going to be. You know, is it going to be the actual numbers we were told about? And even those seem pretty flaky when they were being disclosed. Or are we going to look a couple, 3 years down the road and see that the carrier factory on the west side of Indianapolis is little more than a warehouse? We don't know.
I think it'll be a factory. They're putting 16 or now I can't remember what the number was, but they're putting millions of dollars in retrofitting. But those investments are automation. So when you automate, you don't need employees anymore. And I think Carrier in Indianapolis will be a great factory that will be churning out their Carrier air conditioners or whatever the hell it is they make. But it will be done by machines. The only employees there will be the people working on the machines and packaging shit up for shipping. And that's the effect of globalization. With globalization, you have innovation, and innovation creates an industrialized, automatic or autonomous workforce. And that's the thing that Democrats don't like to talk about, is that their own policies of globalization and the fair trade instead of free trade create these automated systems. So your own policies are killing your own union workers because it's not sustainable.
I think you look at any factory that was built before 1980 in central Indiana, you look at their parking lots, and their parking lots seem empty. And it's not because people aren't working. It's not because people, they aren't manufacturing. Allison Transmission on the west side of Indianapolis, I see maybe 1/4 of their parking lot utilized, and they're turning out more transmissions than they ever did in the 1970s and 1980s when those parking lots were full of union workers.
My grandfather worked at GE, and my grandmother too, down in Bloomington. And I remember as a kid on the west side of Bloomington, there were like 3 times a day that you did not want to be on the west side of Bloomington because of the traffic. And it was like lunchtime, going to work, starting the shift in the morning, lunchtime, and the evening shift, starting or ending. Those were the times you didn't want to be on the west side because it was, hundreds of people. Massive parking lot, just absolutely full. You go by there today, at the peak, there's maybe 20 cars in the parking lot. Maybe 20 cars. But they're still making refrigerators there.
Well, thanks so much to Evan McMahon for stopping by for this week's Indiana Libertarian Update. Indiana Libertarian Update returns next week with a man who may very well be the 2020 Libertarian candidate for President of the United States. We'll meet with Larry Sharp and get to know more about this intriguing character and national libertarian politics. If you have a news story, event, or meeting you want us to pass along, just send us a message via Facebook or drop me an email. That's jsipe@sipesociety.com. This week's Liberty link is HoosierVapors.org. HoosierVapors.org. You can find more about vaping activism and exactly what the technology, what the movement is about in the world of vaping. Okay, that about wraps it up. The Indiana Libertarian Update is a production of SipeSociety.com, your one-man education and online content consultant. Until next time, I'm Jason Sipe, and I'll see you on the computer.